What's up, everybody? It's your girl, Ms.K. I want to stop through and do a one-on-one with with you guys. Um, just kind of want to talk about. There's a lot of things that me and my military friends talk about, and concerning, just the Second Amendment, life, all that good stuff. And one of the questions that came up, which I think has came up before, is why I'm so adamant or so driven about firearms, because that is my first love, so to speak. I love gaming, that's one of my hobbies and everything, but my first interest, I guess, or one of my hobbies is guns. For those that didn't know, I grew up in Gary, Indiana, which was kind of a rough city. There's no kind of to it. Yeah, it was just basically a rough city. Gary was even named as murder capital at some point. And like back in the 80s and 90s, it was they were known for that, and that's nothing. I'm not glorifying that. That's just a fact. You can Wikipedia it, you can Google it, and you can look at it, the actual numbers yourself. And so Gary was a rough city. And I was always the type of person, even though I grew up in the project area in Gary, there were still good people out there, that I grew up around. Everybody wasn't a criminal, even though we had our share of criminals and people doing stuff and gunshots and all types of stuff that goes on in a urban area. All the negativity, anything negative you can think of is what happened in Gary. And at some point in my life, probably my teenage years, I didn't really respect policemen, law enforcement. I did not respect them because I saw some of the law enforcement officers in Gary do things that were wrong to citizens with my own eyes as a teenager. So I didn't have a respect for law enforcement at that time. I did my share of dirt, which I'm not condoning that. I'm not, nobody should do anything, to jeopardize themselves or get themselves in trouble. But when you're growing up and you being a teenager, being influenced by, just your circumstances and the places, a place that you grow up in, you're gonna do things. I was never a, I was never a person that listened to other people. I've never been a follower, so to speak. I had my own mind, so anything that I did because I wanted to do it, not because nobody influenced me to do it. But what changed is when I was about to graduate and everything, and I've always kind of wanted to work in either law enforcement or some sort of capacity dealing with firearms. And I think one reason why my reasoning for that was because I felt like you can make a difference from the inside out. I felt like if I worked on the inside and found out the things the reason why, some law enforcement officers or just people in general are bad is because they have a distrust or they stereotyping a certain group of people and stuff like that. I always wanted to get behind the scenes and see why these people are making these decisions. Why are, so many young people getting shot, of color and stuff like that. So I always wanted to be the person that would get inside and find out what was really going on. My eyes were open a lot when I went into the military. I went into the military when I was 19. And that was my segue into law enforcement, to learn more about, how things work, how the law works, how the judicial system works. And it's an eye-opener. Because the best thing to do the best decision for me was to go in the military. I learned a lot even more about firearms. Like I said, I had my hands on them when I was a teenager anyway. And whether it was right or wrong, I still had my hands on them, growing up in that type of city. But when I learned to be on the right side of the law, so to speak, which is what I always wanted to do. I never wanted to do anything to jeopardize myself or put myself in a situation where I couldn't get out. And I didn't want to hurt my mom because, my mother was she's a single mother. She did the best she could. She did a very good job, even through all that turmoil and all the bull crap that I grew up in. She kept me grounded, she kept me grounded. She's a praying woman. Thank God for that. She's a praying woman that I did not get caught up, in situations that would have me locked up, so to speak, even though I did get in some situations. But there's a genuine, there was always a genuine drive for me to change things from the inside out, and if I had to go into law enforcement or military to learn the workings of how things are in deplorable areas like Gary, that's what I wanted to do. That's one reason why a lot of my friends that I have now are either law enforcement or military, because it's a certain mindset. I don't take owning firearms as a joke. I'm very serious about that. There's a reason why I got all these different, the 45. I mean, I got the 9mm, the 45s. Let me see what else I got. I'll just show you a couple things I got. Just pick this baby up. It's a reason why I got things like this now in my collection. I've always wanted to own and be responsible with firearms. I have the temperament for it. I worked as a corrections officer for a little while in Florida. And although I was a good officer, don't get me wrong, I was a good officer, I just did not like it. I did not like that field. And when I was going to college, that was my phone ringing. When I was going to college, I figured out real quickly what I needed to do to make an impact, and I've been doing that. I've been doing that throughout my career. I've been at, like I said, I worked at the prison for a little while. I didn't really like it. Even though I was a good officer, I did not like that. But I got out of that. And when I was going to school, I was going to college, the course that I took was law enforcement and corrections. That was one course. So when you learn the attributes or the aspects of being a corrections officer, you also learn how to be a law enforcement officer too. So I do have that degree in that field. Criminal justice is another field that I went into, and once you learn the inner workings of the judicial system and how things are, then you have a better understanding on what you can do to make an impact, a positive impact in other people's lives and in your own life. You know how to work. You know how the system works. So, like I said, as a kid, I always wanted to possess firearms. I always had a thing for them, even as a kid, as a teenager. I remember that. And I told my mother when I think I was like 16 or 17, I said I wanted to, before I even thought about the military, I told her I wanted to go work in security as an armed guard. So even then, firearms was a part of what I wanted to have access to. I've seen them used in the wrong manner, and it was detrimental. I've lost some friends to guns. And that's not acceptable to me. That's not acceptable. I feel like if you're gonna own one, be legal with it. That's, of course, it's not gonna stop criminals from being criminals. They're gonna get it the wrong way anyway. And there were things just going on in the neighborhood that I probably won't really talk about, that I did not like, that happened in Gary when I was there. And if I ever had to go into that field again, which I'm thinking about doing, back into law enforcement, I don't know where I would want to serve, what city or state I would want to become law enforcement at. I haven't decided that yet. I don't know if I want to go back to Indiana. It's so corrupt there, so I doubt that I would want to go back to the community I grew up in, because it's a lot different now. But in some sort of aspect, I'm gonna get back into that field, So, I hope that answered the question. Well, I've gotten a lot of questions. A lot of people ask me, Ms.K, why you so gung-ho with these firearms and this and this and this? And this is the reason. This is the reason. I've always, enjoyed them. I respect them. I treat them as they're loaded at all times. I respect firearms and what they can do to people. I've seen them used in instances where they hurt people and kill people. When I was in the military, there were a lot of instances where I always had my M16 with me. When you're in the military, you shoot all types of weapons. That was right down my alley because I love stuff like that. I really do. I really enjoy that. And as long as it's in a safe setting, when you're training, that is, because when you're in combat, anything can happen. And I am a combat veteran. I was in combat. I was in Saudi Arabia, Afghanistan, Iraq, Iran. I was there. I was there. So in cases like that, it's fight or flight. You feel me? It's fight or flight. And I just have that mindset, you know. But I don't want this video to be too long. I just want to talk to you guys and let you know this is just a little insider with Ms. K, and the reason why I really like and respect firearms. I always will own them. My mother's not too crazy about them, but knowing that, anytime that I'm around her, she will not know that I have a firearm, you know, even though she knows that I carry and everything is legal. It's important to know the laws. Please, whatever you do when you carry a firearm, know what the laws are. Know what you can and cannot do. Be aware where you can carry them and where you can't. I'm a responsible firearm owner. I always wanted to be a responsible firearm owner, and I have everything in place to make sure I'm legitimate. So anyway, it's your girl Ms. K. Just want to come through, do a little, you know, just to talk with you guys one-on-one. Thank you for supporting my channel. Let's continue to grow. And yeah, I'll see you guys on the next video. Peace.